Yes, yes. Welcome once again to motherfucking Valuable Perspectives. I have an amazing guest with us, Ian Grant. Welcome, my brother. Welcome.
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, brother. We connected via Instagram, and you were talking about some of the NFT stuff you're doing. You were checking in with me, so I'm super excited to bring you in and really dive deep into the project you got going. So let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Absolutely.
For sure. So, Ian, why don't you tell us about your NFT project? I know you were saying it launched for Juneteenth and it's going to the end of the summer. Could you tell us a little bit about like how you got started with this project and kind of what it all is?
Yeah. So let me just start with kind of my background to give, the backstory of how I got into it. But
Mm-hmm.
I work in tech and I co-run a film organization on the side called Minorities in Film.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my background is really in tech, entertainment, producing, and acting. So I kind of dabble in both of those worlds, the entertainment world, but also the tech world.
Mm-hmm.
And I came across NFTs early off this year, and I immediately saw the upside. And
Mm-hmm.
so our whole goal at Minorities in Film is to create a more democratized filmmaking process, um, and really kind of create a more equitable playing field in the kind of entertainment industry, as well as tearing down any uh, barriers to entry
Mm-hmm.
that minorities may face trying to break into the industry.
Right.
And so I saw NFTs. I said, this would be a cool way to kind of help raise funds. And so our goal through our NFT auction is essentially to auction off pieces of art by six artists, with a theme of artists are essential. And in the midst of chaos, the world turns to art.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we're splitting the proceeds with the artists, and it's going to go to a community film fund where we'll make a film as a my film minorities in film community, and everyone from the community would be able to partake in the film in some way, shape, or form, and then everybody would be able to retain ownership in the film, as we license it and package it and distribute it.
That's dope. So this is kind of like almost like a Kickstarter, right, for the film, but rather than just saying, "Hey, fund the film," it's like you're using the NFTs and highlighting these artists to also raise funds for the film. And so I'm curious, like, what's the platform that you're using to launch the NFTs off of, and just kind of how can people support the NFTs?
Yeah, so um, we're hosted on OpenSea, and then we
Mm-hmm.
also have a virtual gallery on Spatial.
Mm-hmm.
So over the course of the summer, we're going to be launching NFTs kind of periodically, probably on a weekly, bi-weekly schedule,
Mm-hmm.
um, for the next 7 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll be doing promotion and email blasts and kind of doing some drop parties both on Clubhouse and in the virtual gallery as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I think what really is super like important and what we value the most is the message behind the theme that artists are essential. Um, and in the midst of chaos, we turn to art. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was born out of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And we realized that, the art is valued, but the artist isn't.
Right.
And that, when the world shut down, everybody was turning to forms of entertainment,
Mm-hmm.
whether it was binging Netflix or binging TikTok
Mm-hmm.
or Instagram Live and verses and everything like that. So, um, what I think is really cool is we gave the prompt to the artist, and every artist is kind of interpreting it in their own way, which is completely something we didn't even think about. Like, we were thinking on terms of that, like, what if artists were the essential workers, right? What if they were the ones that were getting paid raises or were valuable during this pandemic because they were.
Right.
They kept everybody sane. They kept everybody entertained, and gave people something to do when they were locked down.
Man, so true. Like that's actually what got me into getting back into art and kind of sharing NFTs was the lockdown, the quarantine. I'm curious, how did you find the artists that you decided to collab with? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, so I'm in the crypto space kind of pretty heavy on my own. And I came across an organization, Black NFT Art. And so we decided to partner with them, and really just kind of was in the clubhouse rooms, in Twitter, and just kind of scoping out people's work, and then reached out, and then also asked Black NFT Art if they knew anybody. And what was really nice is as we started getting like an artist or two, they started to refer people, and even now that it's launched, artists are kind of like, oh, I really like what you're doing, can I donate a piece, right? So it's really exciting to see kind of what it's going to grow to towards the end of the summer, and the height that it's going to get to.
I love that. I love how the community's helping you grow it and you kind of bringing people together. So I'm curious, we're going deep into like this project, but how did you first hear about NFTs? Like, what was that process like for you where there was like the aha moment of like, I get this?
Man, man. So I remember exactly when I heard about it, and I was actually at the gym, and I saw an article, and I stopped to read it, and it immediately clicked. And from then, I went down the rabbit hole, and
What clicked for you? I'm curious.
what didn't click? The programmable media, the fractionalization, the DeFi, the financial, stability of it, the other forms of IP. I think there's so many levels to NFTs that we're really just in this first phase of, which is art, right? That's kind of the bare bones, right? But I saw how it's going to apply to everything, and then I just started to kind of form my own opinion around it, which gave me a deeper level of understanding to right the actual industry, but also NFTs as themselves and the possibilities of NFTs.
So just yeah, just seeing like all the different layers and I think that when it makes sense, you also realize like there's a lot that hasn't even come yet. Like with all
Exactly.
the different layers, it really feels like we're at the very very beginning.
Yeah, and they've been out for some time too. They're not even like brand new. I think they just kind of hit mass media recently.
For sure, for sure. So with that, you're saying that you've been in crypto. So how long have you been involved in crypto, and then what's that journey like for you?
Yeah, so I got started back in like 2017 during the last like run, as you would say, and I started kind of just being curious, um, and didn't really do much, but always kind of kept it, on the back burner. Bought a few coins and just kind of forgot about them, but held them. And then as of like late last year, right during the pandemic, um, is when I started to kind of set goals and wanted to invest more. Um, and then like towards the end of 2020, I started kind of getting really into deeper back into crypto. And when I kind of pulled up my portfolio, and I was like, oh shit, like, and just looking back to like to see where it was at one point, and I was like, there's a lot more upside here than stocks. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I switched my focus completely and just
Mm-hmm.
went, full blown crypto, and just kind of been in this space heavy since end of, late 2020 and all of this year.
I love it. So, with that being said, this isn't financial advice, but what are a couple tokens and a couple projects that you're a fan of and you're invested in?
So I'm super invested in Solana. Um,
How come?
I just think Solana has a lot of use cases for their chain,
Mm-hmm.
um, and compared to the scalability, right? In tech, in like traditional tech, it's always about, how well can you scale,
Right.
right? And they could do their transaction speeds, um, right, and just kind of, the it's backed by some of the, best people who I feel are very innovative,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the projects coming out of Solana I think have a lot of potential. So
Mm-hmm.
um, definitely Solana,
Mm-hmm.
um, Matic as well,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously like Bitcoin and some staking,
Mm-hmm.
getting into mining now,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm super excited about. So just being diverse, but also I really pay attention to use cases.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like, a lot of people are shilling hype and, all this other stuff. But to me, it's really about the use case.
Yep.
And once you understand the practical use case, you could see the potential. I
Mm-hmm.
saw I saw a lot of potential in coins, and they 10x right in
Yep.
front of my eyes. And
Yep.
I saw it happen, and I was like, yeah, I knew it.
And it takes that, right? It takes a couple, like, I should have
Hmm.
taken my gut and went with it, because now you see it. And those
Yep.
are the learning lessons that it really takes as we're building, right? And
Very
teaching
much so.
ourselves. Hmm.
Very much so. Yep. You need those.
You need to see what you lost.
Yeah.
That FOMO is real. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Granting Wishes Studios? I know that's one of your companies that you're in control of and you run. So how did that come to be, and kind of like what's the breakdown of that company?
Yeah. So I started kind of a production company early 2019, late 2019, just because I saw where kind of the industry was going. And I saw a lot of people get boxed out and kind of just have to take what was given to them. And I wanted to create a platform and a space where we could tell stories that matter to us. I think media is a dominant language and, and an amazing teacher. But I also feel as though minorities and Black people's stories get told in this light that isn't necessarily true, and it's oftentimes falsely depicted. So I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted to create my own place where we could create stories that matter, but also show us in a good limelight.
We need that. We need content is so important, and we need to be in control of our image a lot of times. And I think sometimes with these production companies, we're not, right? We might be working for them, but we're not in charge. So I think it's so important. On that note, what do you see in the future of film and NFTs? I think that you're at the cross section of both of these things, and I'm super curious to hear what you think the future might look like.
Oh, the future is going to be amazing, and especially with NFTs, and content itself. I think what a lot of people are missing now in this NFT kind of period is not stretching their capabilities and their mindset, right? And I think we're held back a lot by the platforms
Mm-hmm.
and the size limits, right?
Oh, like OpenSea and like 80 megabytes for the
Yeah,
file.
100 megs, things
Yeah,
like that, right? And that's how everything started, right? You pull
yep,
out an old SD card, it was 8 gigs, and you're like, what was I doing with this?
yep.
So like I believe NFTs, right, are truly going to be programmable, where they may be a form of actual video content,
Mm-hmm.
where filmmakers can release short films, series, and be, this whole new creator economy is about to be born.
Mm-hmm.
And NFTs, the metaverse is at the core of it, right? And I think that they'll be able to create, mint, fractionalize, and then mint 1,000 pieces and sell. But also, right, it's going to be another vertical of intellectual property.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be able to create memorabilia from your film, from your content. Um, you crowdfund, much like I'm doing. Right, there's a lot of projects. There's, a lot of people are starting to really uh, experiment with that DeFi element and marrying
Mm-hmm.
DeFi and NFTs.
Right.
Um, and there's so much potential there in terms of like film financing. But honestly, I think that NFTs will also control like a waterfall payment system as a smart contract, and it would live inside that.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much, and I just think that the creativity is there,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone is obviously not realizing it yet. But we're also held back by the technology and the platforms that exist.
Right. So, are there any NFT projects that you've seen that you've been excited about and you've said, okay, they're on to something? Like, I like what they're doing here and how X is Y. Are there any projects where you feel like you've learned from and you want to kind of advance what they're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have my own kind of concepts and iterations that, I'm working on right at the core of kind of what this auction is really doing and systemizing it. But some platforms that I've seen really kind of, advancing the NFT space, um, NFT Fi, charged particles is, I think, is
Yeah,
super cool.
I love that.
Charged particles is super dope.
And for the people, that's an NFT with an interest bearing
Bearing
token inside of
side
it,
of it.
or another NFT. There's you could basically it's like
Yeah,
unlockable files for days.
yeah, it's crazy. I think the lending, NFT lending platforms, where you can put your NFT up as collateral,
Mm-hmm.
and get a loan from
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, it's like someone kind of like saying, "All right, I'm gonna put my Picasso painting up as collateral
Yeah.
for X loan, and if I don't pay it back, you get the key." Like that's really crazy. And I'm super excited for what some of these platforms are doing, because I know they're going to advance artists, but
Right.
also create more opportunities for people.
Man, it's so real. And for the audience, what a lot of people don't actually know is in the traditional art world, getting loans for your art is very common practice. You can go into any major bank, and if you have a Picasso, you can literally get a loan against that, like you can get a loan against your house. And so for this to be moving into crypto, I think is such a major just a major development, because what a lot of people do is they will buy a painting, let's say it's 18 million, they get a loan, they'll take maybe 10 million, 11 million, buy another painting, then that 18 million dollar painting goes up to 30 million, and and so this is
Hmm.
something that, especially for us people of color, we haven't historically been in that place to be investing in millions of dollars of art. But
Right.
what I love about NFTs is it allows all of us to become investors, even if that's on a $50 to $100 level.
Right. And you have the ability for it to appreciate, right? And then even when you have a DeFi element added into it, you could deposit it for liquidity, right? And get LP tokens and then go exchange them, right? And
Yeah,
like there's
they're doing with Hash Mass and the
yeah, you punks, all that
you
stuff, right?
punks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think there's so much opportunity that I think people just aren't aware of it, right? And NFTs are going to create a whole new level of, curators, gallery experiences. Um, just last week in New York, they had a hybrid VR gallery and live NFT gallery expo, and so like you're gonna start seeing curators pop up for the metaverse and things like that.
Mm. It's big. It's really all happening, and you can kind of start seeing it trickle into our mainstream. So
Hmm.
so as a filmmaker, I have to ask you, for our audience, what's one or maybe some films that you feel like might not be on our radar that we should check out?
Let me see. I know I have a film in the film circuit right now. The link is in my bio for the trailer. Um,
We'll definitely include that, in the section, the comment section.
um, that you may not be aware of. I know series, especially on Netflix
Hmm.
and Prime. Um, I don't. Startup is super dope. So I
I've
don't know
been
if
peeping
anyone.
startup.
Yeah,
Yes, I like it. In Miami, based out of Miami.
yeah, and it's crazy that Miami's really trying to be the crypto capital of the U.S.
Right.
Um, and capture some of that mining revenue.
Man, I
Um,
love I love the Haitian character, the one that main character. That
he
dude killed that role.
he had the best character development of the whole
Man,
series.
oh man, I love that character. I'm still on season one, so I'm still working through it. But that, yeah, if y'all haven't checked it out, Startup on Netflix, highly recommended.
Yeah, and Panic is pretty good on Amazon. I'm just getting into that,
Mm,
and the new series of Lupin is out. So if you haven't seen that, that's a good heist movie, heist
nice.
series. Yeah.
Okay, I gotta check that out. And so, one last recommendation from you: any books that you're reading or you've read that you feel like can really help guide people to the right place?
I mean, oh, there's a ton. It just really depends what you want.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of like the space, crypto, and just expanding your mind, I would say I would give two to three. The magic of thinking big, the compound effect,
Mm,
and lastly, think and grow rich.
nice. I love that third one. The first two I haven't read, so I'm gonna check those out and go back and have to vibe with those. So before we close out, how could people get a hold of you and support the dope projects you are working on?
Yeah, so I'm spinning up something new that I'm excited about that I'm hasn't fully launched yet, but I'm starting a blog for really beginners
Mm,
um, and people. What I've realized is that um, I was shilling a lot of just the mindset of blockchain and not necessarily specific projects, but what blockchain really stood for, right? And what decentralization stood for. And then everyone was coming to me, um, but just misinformed.
mm-hmm.
And, I was like, well, what book have you read? Or like, what's the first investment I should make? And I'm in yourself.
Mm,
And because that's how I started. And so,
right.
creating a blog, right? It's going to kind of give you overview, passive income strategies, right, that I'm taking and doing and that have worked for me. It's called the DGen Down Low. And so it's linked in my bio. You can subscribe. And it's going to be really dope. It's going to kind of cover everything from crypto projects, blockchain, at the center of culture,
Mm-hmm.
because I know culture is the biggest shape shifter,
Yep.
and that's where a lot of things like people don't realize like the things that are happening in crypto now is due to culture,
Yep.
right? NFTs, wearables, it's gonna derive from culture,
Yep.
right? And as Black people and minorities, it's important that we take advantage, right? Because this is
Absolutely.
this is a second opportunity. They
Yes.
took the first one from us, and this is what I feel as though is the second one, and that's kind of
First
why I'm
one
passionate.
being tech, or what's the first one?
I would say the first one was Black Wall Street,
Mm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they bombed it. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, this no, they can't take this away from this.
Right.
So if we capitalize, shit.
That's it. And I really just want to reiterate on what you said about how important culture is in the crypto space and how that's what moves crypto.
Hmm.
And if you look at black culture leads culture in America. So if you just do the logic of first principle, we are going to be so important when it comes to this crypto space. And I think it's going to be conversations like this, people like yourself who's helping to usher in this new age, right? Because the thing about crypto and NFTs is there is a pretty significant large learning curve. It's not something, at least for me, in my opinion, it's not something that you watch a quick YouTube video and it's like, all right, I get it in one go, trying to understand proof of work, proof of stake, understanding the blockchain, how it works. It took me a good 100 hours of like focus and learning so much of it.
I, easily, because right, like, and I'm, they say you once you go down the crypto hole, you don't go back, and
Yep.
it's true,
Yep.
but like you have to educate, then you have to understand, right, and then you can take action.
Yep.
A lot of it was me going from medium blog to medium blog to
Yep.
medium blog,
Yep.
a video, right? There's so many documentaries, right? You talked about movies, right? Cryptopia, The Trust Machine, right? Those are dope documentaries that add value and insight to the space and kind of just open your mind. And once you educate and you understand, you can form your own opinion around it, then right, you really see the bigger picture, right? I've
Yep.
taken blockchain courses, like down to the nitty gritty from even the developer side, right? Like, and I'm no developer, but to truly understand something, you have to immerse yourself in it.
Yep.
And
100%.
a tip I have for people who want to kind of start learning. Um, Obviously, crypto Twitter. Take it for what you may, pros and cons. But learn to hack your timeline and use the search bar and create lists.
Yep. I was
I,
gonna say list is that's the tool.
yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and you can follow my list because a lot of mine are
Yep.
open.
Yep. Same
Um,
here.
yeah,
I'm
and
gonna follow
like
yours.
hack you hack your timeline, where you don't have to disrupt anything that you're doing, but you could spend 5-10 minutes scrolling through your crypto Twitter, right, or your NFT Twitter, and and kind of get a high level of what's going on. This space moves lightning speed. You wake up,
Yes.
there's new developments. There's no way to keep up with everything,
Yep.
right? So you have to learn how to hack it and get like high level information, in a compressed time, and then dig into what you find interesting.
This man is dropping bars for y'all. He said, hack your Twitter. You can't write books on how fast things are moving. So you
Mm,
really have to be able to tap into it in a real live, real time way. And really where that's happening is on the Twitterverse.
Twitter, Discord, like my Discords are full.
Yep.
Um, and
Telegram.
Telegrams, right? Join a community, right? Like we said, culture is what moves, like crypto, right? One thing, being in a very successful startup, right, and seeing how the trajectory and growth, right, is coming. It's Silicon Valley, it's this, right? But like these crypto projects, they're not being built in Silicon Valley and Slack. They're being built on crypto and Discords.
Discord. Yep.
And so it's
And
like,
Twitter and
yeah,
Telegram. Yep.
and clubhouses,
Yep.
and it's just like it's such a different space, and that's why I wanted to create my the blog, just to kind of educate people, given my tech background, but then also just kind of give the little bit of information I know, and allow people to really just take action. And then I'll be sharing my projects that I'm working on and that are upcoming through that as well.
Brother, I love that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna include all the links in the show notes. So everybody watching, make sure you hit up this NFT project so you can support what this brother's doing. Make sure we get more people of color in films. Hit up his blog, his Twitter, on IG. But definitely, Ian, I really appreciate you taking the time today and doing this interview, sharing what you got going. I think that is really exciting, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you and watching what you build over the years.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Most definitely. All right, y'all. Really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Follow Real MVP Show on Instagram. And until next time, peace and love.